I'm Liz Faublis, and this is Currents. A disappearing act that's becoming a worldwide concern. It's another country where baby girls are considered undesirable. Plus, ordination is right around the corner. I'll talk with one of 6 men who will soon be a priest for the Diocese of Brooklyn.
It's been exciting, but also I've been in a moment of shock because it seemed like forever that this day would ever come, and it's finally here.
And her name is synonymous with education in Brooklyn and Queens, and she was honored this past weekend.
Tonight, we are honored to celebrate the work of that special person, Sister Angela Gannon, CSJ.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. It's known as gendercide in some parts of the world, the abortion of baby girls. China's one-child policy, which the Chinese government instituted in 1980, permits each family to have only one child. According to one account, the law has resulted in the abortion of 37 million Chinese girls. But recent evidence indicates that gendercide may be happening closer to home than you think.
Actually, I'm trying to get pregnant.
Okay.
I just want to terminate this pregnancy
Right.
because of
But no,
the gender.
like
so.
I said, because don't tell us that. We don't want to know, because one of the things on here says,
Oh, I didn't see the word.
yeah, it says that you are not doing this because of race or sex.
Oh. Oh, I initialed everything without reading.
No, that's fine. That's better because
Okay.
there's a.
So I just shouldn't say that anymore.
Yeah, don't say that.
Wait, why?
Because state law says we cannot do a termination on somebody just because of race and gender.
And that video released by the pro-life group Live Action was recorded at a National Abortion Federation clinic in Arizona, where abortion based on the gender of the unborn baby is outlawed. Live Action released 3 other videos, including 2 in the same week that the House failed to pass legislation that would have outlawed gender-based abortions nationwide. What effect does sex-selective abortion have? CNN's Sarah Seidner headed to India to find out.
19-year-old Reshma Banu stares at the tiny screen on her cell phone. This is the only place she can see her baby girl alive and well. 3-month-old Afreen died in the hospital with cigarette burns, bites, and a dislocated neck. Police say her own father killed her. Why? Because Afreen happened to be born a girl. After my delivery, my husband had come to see me and the baby. After seeing the child, he said, "It's a girl? Why did you give birth to a girl?" she says. He wanted a boy, an heir. Reshma was devastated when she was given this ultimatum by her husband. For her wedding, we will require 100,000 rupees for all the expenses. If you can get that amount from your mother, then you can keep her. But if you can't, then kill her. She couldn't and refused to kill her baby. So police say her husband did it himself. As brutal and shocking as this case may be, getting rid of babies just because they're girls is nothing new here in India. And many times it's done long before the child is born. How? Sex-selective abortions. India has a growing gap between the number of girls and the number of boys. The 2011 census showed for every 1,000 boys, there were only 914 girls. The gap was smaller 10 years ago. UNICEF has said India is the most dangerous place to be a girl. Would you agree with that, considering what you know about the subject?
Yeah, largely, this is from the point of view of mortality statistics for girls versus boys, I would say yes.
Dr. Anand Krishnan has been researching the subject for years. Sex-selective abortions are against the law in India, but he says it's still happening. And he says there are more sex-selective abortions among the educated and well-off than among the desperately poor and uneducated.
The boy is seen as a better investment to the return.
When you say that, basically what you're telling me is that families look at girls as a liability.
Absolutely.
And boys as almost a retirement.
Absolutely sure.
In traditional Indian families, the men marry and bring their bride home to live and take care of his parents. Girls marry and leave the home, providing no extra financial support. Plus, a girl's family can go broke trying to pay a dowry to get her married. Dowry is also outlawed in India, but it's still as common as it ever was. We traveled to a village the Indian government says has one of the worst ratios of boys to girls in the country, where the government has launched a campaign to change minds. But even though they wear t-shirts with messages about keeping girls, we still found many more young boys. Girls are mostly aborted here, she says. The people want more boys. There's a shortage of girls. We met Chandravati while she was taking care of her neighbor's newborn baby girl, all the while blowing cigarette smoke into the baby's face. She says the poorest people don't have the money to abort, so they're forced to keep girls. But those who can afford an ultrasound and abortion get rid of female fetuses. So much money is required to get them married. Where will the money come from, she says? But for Reshma and her parents, a baby, boy or girl, is a blessing. She had just come into the world. She is like a flower bud, and he killed her. I lost my daughter. What can be worse than this? Reshma's husband still waiting trial. Reshma still mourning the chance to raise her first child just because she was born a girl.
Well, according to the Catholic website Asia News, women in India's Bid district are forced to have abortions as late as the 8th month of pregnancy. Last month, police there arrested 2 doctors in connection with a case in which a mother died from complications arising from a late-term abortion. There's more currents ahead. The day's headlines are next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Liz Faublas. In Rio de Janeiro, the Vatican's permanent observer to the United Nations, Archbishop Francis Chillicat, emphasized that people should be the priority when leaders consider how to improve the world. Speaking at the Rio Conference, a world gathering of leaders to discuss the future, he said, quote, "A truly human-centered approach must first and foremost uphold and respect the right to life." And the secretary of the Brazilian Bishops' Conference, Auxiliary Bishop Leonardo Steiner of Brasilia, also said UN delegates should not forget the poor, adding the first to suffer are the poor, and we have the feeling that the poor are not being taken into consideration. In Vancouver, Canada, Archbishop J. Michael Miller is strongly urging the government of British Columbia to appeal a provincial Supreme Court decision that strikes down a law banning physician-assisted suicide. He called the ruling extremely flawed and dangerous and sadly reflects a distorted view of equality rights that emphasizes autonomy over human dignity and the value of life. Among the Archbishop's other comments, quote, "We have been down this road many times around the world, and all the safeguards initially put in place wind up either disregarded or eventually dispensed with, and the result is euthanasia harms not only those whose lives are taken, but those responsible for taking them." Catholic News Agency is reporting that an English language school for Chaldean Catholics in Iraq's Kurdistan region is receiving help from a Dallas-based Catholic apostolate. Dr. James Patrick, a senior fellow of the Walsingham Society, said they are helping improve their English to better tell the school's story. Patrick explained his society wants to assist the small but growing school in Kurdistan in order to help members of Iraq's historic Catholic community remain in their homeland. The Chaldean Church predates the growth of Islam, but has suffered massive losses during the Iraq War and its aftermath. The Vatican has announced the cause for the beatification of Dora Del Hoyo, one of the first collaborators of the founder of Opus Dei, can proceed. Quoting here, "Dora was of great importance for Opus Dei for her fidelity and her work perfectly finished, which was always accompanied by her humility of passing unnoticed. This is why she was so effective until the end of her life." That from Bishop Javier Echeverria, the prelate of Opus Dei, who announced the cause at Rome's Pontifical University of the Holy Cross. Born in Spain in 1914, Dora Del Hoyo first came into contact with Opus Dei's founder, Saint Jose Maria Escriva, that is, at the age of 29 when she was employed as a member of the domestic staff in a Madrid student residence run by a Catholic organization. In 1946, she became the first woman to join Opus Dei as a numerary assistant. Such members principally dedicate themselves to the domestic responsibilities within centers of Opus Dei. A group of Roman Catholic nuns began a 9-state bus tour protesting proposed federal budget cuts on Monday. Now, while the timing of the trip, organized by Network, coincides with recent Vatican criticisms of socially active nuns, the Washington-based group insists that That is not by design. They simply felt called to show how Republican policies are affecting low-income families, and it was not intended to counter recent criticism. A recent Vatican report said some organizations like Network, led by nuns, have focused too much on economic injustice while failing to promote the Church's teachings on abortion and same-sex marriage. The Vatican asked U.S. bishops to look at Network's ties to another group of nuns it is reorganizing because of what the Church calls serious doctrinal problems. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops did not immediately comment on the bus tour. 14 nuns will rotate on and off the bus during the next 2 weeks. They plan stops at the office of several closely tied to the budget process, including House Speaker John Boehner of Ohio and Wisconsin Rep. Paul Ryan, the architect of the House-passed budget. The tour will end in Washington on July 2nd. Well, a Philadelphia jury is set to return for an 11th day of deliberations Tuesday in the groundbreaking clergy abuse trial of 2 Roman Catholic priests. Monsignor William Lynn is the first U.S. church official charged over his handling of child sexual abuse complaints as an aide to the late Cardinal Anthony Bevilacqua. He's charged with conspiracy and child endangerment for allegedly helping the Philadelphia Archdiocese cover up the complaints from 1992 to 2004. Now, if convicted, he faces up to 21 years in prison. The trial has been underway since March. Jurors had no questions for the judge on Monday. San Diego's Qualcomm Stadium was the site of a special sermon on Sunday. Former Denver Bronco Tim Tebow delivered the keynote speech to a stadium packed with 26,000 fans, many of them dads and sons, on hand for a Father's Day church service led by evangelical leader David Jeremiah. Many wore his jerseys, both Bronco and the team he's with now, the New York Jets. Some sported John 3:16 eye paint based on the famous Bible verse. According to the Christian Post, Tebow encouraged the audience to be active Christians and encouraged men to get in the game and finish strong. Finish strong for your family, your wife, your sons, and your daughters. He added that while the world looks at him as a football player who's a Christian, he says, "I look at the world and say, I'm a Christian who happens to play football." Well, a message from the Vatican intended to offer hope to refugees all around the world. Rome Reports has more.
During Sunday's Angelus, the Pope greeted thousands of pilgrims from his studio window in St. Peter's Square. As World Refugee Day approaches on June 20th, the Pope said his thoughts and prayers are with all refugees who are scattered all over the world. He called on their rights to be respected, and he also said he hopes they can soon reunite with their families.
Essa vuole attirare l'attenzione della comunità internazionale sulle condizioni di tante persone, specialmente famiglie, costrette a fuggire dalle proprie terre perché minacciate dai conflitti armati e da gravi forme di violenza.
The Pope also talked about the parable of the mustard seed and how it symbolizes the kingdom of God. He explained that even the weak and poor of heart can have a place in the kingdom of God. He then added that knowing when to surrender to God is key.
The Lord teaches us that God's kingdom is like a tiny mustard seed which becomes the largest of shrubs. Let us fervently pray that God may take our weak but sincere desires and transform them into great works of love for Him and our neighbor.
Then toward the end, the Pope announced the beatification of Giuseppe Cecilia, an 18-year-old young Italian woman who was beatified in her hometown of Nepi on Sunday afternoon.
Stay tuned, there's more currents ahead. Coming up, it's almost here, Ordination Day for 6 men in the Brooklyn Diocese. I'll talk with one of them.
It's beautiful because I like to tell people that I received my vocation in the womb of Mary, in the Church of Our Lady Miraculous Miracle, under her protection, under her guidance, and her care.
Welcome back. Here in the Brooklyn Diocese, June is typically the month when the church welcomes new priests. This year, Bishop DeMarcio will be ordaining 6 men. I had the pleasure of speaking with one of these amazing young men earlier today. Deacon Sean Sukiel joined me to talk about his vocation and his impending ordination, which is scheduled for this Saturday at St. James Cathedral. Deacon Sean, your ordination is this Saturday, and I wanted to start the interview by asking you how you feel, but we've been talking for about 5 minutes before the interview. So it's like I can feel your energy and your enthusiasm and pure happiness. But what is going through your mind right now as you head towards Saturday? You're finally there.
Well, I'm thinking about the weather for this Sunday.
And it's going to be great. I checked for you. Very warm, but beautiful.
Thank you. It's been really emotional. It's been exciting, but also I've been in a moment of shock because it seemed like forever that this day would ever come, and it's finally here. You know, that I will be offering the holy sacrifice of the Mass, forgiving sins, anointing souls. It's incredible.
And you said it seems like forever, so let's give it a time frame for our viewers. When did you receive the call to Christ? Like, was it a voice that you heard? Was it a feeling that you had? Were you doing something specific and just stopped and answered?
I was 8 years old when I first felt the call to the priesthood. I was at Sunday Mass with my family, and the priest was delivering his homily. I felt a sense of peace come over my heart. A peace that I have never felt before, a peace that an 8-year-old kid would never experience. And my immediate response to that peace was, I want to be a priest. Now, I didn't hear like a voice saying, Sean, you know, you called to be a priest. But it was a sense of peace. It was different, a different peace than the world can give. And that day, I went home to tell my mom and dad I want to be a priest. And of course, they thought it was the cutest thing in the world.
For an 8-year-old.
They said, don't tell anyone. So I told the whole world that I want to be a priest. And they'll say, you know, Sean, why do you want to be a priest? I said, I don't know. I just knew deep down in my heart that I want to be a priest. And I didn't know what priests did, you know, in the daily life. But throughout these years, God has blessed me, and that peace has got stronger.
Who has been the biggest influence in your life on this journey towards the priesthood? Are you very close with a soon-to-be brother priest, or is it more your parents or family members? Who has really helped guide you?
It's been many people, and there's been many priests. You know, I'm very blessed to join a great presbyterate here in the Diocese of Brooklyn. The priests have been very good to me, and but I have to say, I have to credit a lot to my parents. You know, to see their witness, their love for each other, has deeply affected me.
And you mentioned they're still together after so many years.
And just to see their call to holiness, living out their vocation of marriage, you know, it makes me want to be a good and holy priest for the people who I'm going to serve one day.
And now you're preparing for a lot of firsts, which is something that we discussed. You're going to be celebrating your first Mass this Sunday at your home parish. Tell me a little bit about how that makes you feel, because, you know, it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. These people know you, but these people know you.
They know everything about me.
How do you feel?
It's beautiful because I like to tell people that I received my vocation in the womb of Mary, in the Church of Our Lady of Miraculous Medal, under her protection, under her guidance, and her care. And she's been there all throughout my formation. And it's really beautiful to go back home and to offer thanksgiving to the Blessed Mother by celebrating the first Mass in her church.
You said something that really resonated with me while we were talking. You're also preparing for penance, for your first penance, another first. And you said that in your heart, it just struck you that a sinner will now forgive sins. And it added such a humanity to you and to your journey. Can you talk just a little bit about that and kind of just, you know, explain what you mean by that?
Well, it's just very humbling, you know, and you know, just it makes the sacrament of confession so real. You know, that people come to a priest for sins to be forgiven. But then they're not just coming to a priest, they're coming to experience Christ in me, to encounter Christ in me. And that's humbling. And to know that one day I will forgive sins this weekend, it makes me know that I need to go to confession often myself and experience that same forgiveness.
Well, Deacon Sean, we know you have been preparing for this since 8 years old, and I take it seriously. I truly believe once you hear it, once you feel it, it's real, even if you're 8, 18.
Right.
Now you're a week away. How are you going to prepare for this amazingly awesome moment that's about to transpire? Will you be praying? Will you be meditating?
Certainly praying and meditating a lot. Hopefully Wednesday into Thursday and Friday, just take those days as days of prayer and just really focus on the ordination rite and the prayers that I'm going to say at my first Mass for the Solemnity of the Nativity of St. John the Baptist. So I'm really going to focus on those, the rite of ordination and my first Mass prayers, and just allow that to be the fruit of it all.
I really want to thank you for coming in
thank you
today.
for having
You've
me.
inspired me. Really, you've transferred a great energy, and I truly appreciate it.
Thank
and
you.
I will be praying for you this
Thank you.
weekend.
Thank you.
Congratulations
Thank
from
you
all
so
of us.
much.
Stay tuned, there's more currents ahead. When we return, another honor for a woman who has been a leader for the Catholic education in Brooklyn and Queens.
Angela had the vision and the foresight to start this program, to initiate it, to build it, and to encourage people to participate.
Earlier this month, a national organization for lay ministry presented a prestigious award to a religious sister from Brooklyn. Sister Angela Gannon, the Secretary for Catholic Education and Formation for the Diocese of Brooklyn, was presented with the Juan Diego Award. The honor from the National Association for Lay Ministry is named for the first saint of the Americas who witnessed the apparition of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Sister Angela received the award for her outstanding witness to the spirit and values embodied in the life of Juan Diego. It's a witness that she has given throughout her career at all levels of education, as well as through her work in parish ministry. Now, this past weekend, the Diocese of Brooklyn's Pastoral Institute, which works to assist lay people called to church ministry, also honored Sister Angela, who served as the Institute's director from 2000 to 2009. It happened on Saturday night at the Immaculate Conception Center in Douglaston, Queens, as part of an event to benefit the Pastoral Institute and its scholarship fund.
Tonight we're here to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the beginning of the Lay Ministry Institute, preparing lay people for ministry in the church, and also preparing them to go on, many of them, to master's degrees in theology.
One person in particular stepped up to the plate and put her knowledge, expertise, and practical experience to the task of the Pastoral Institute. Tonight, we are honored to celebrate the work of that special person, Sister Angela Gannon, CSJ.
You are evangelizers, the new evangelizers, the new missionaries of our century. To me, this is one of the greatest honors that I have received because I have given my life, really, to the education and formation of the laity.
Together with Dr. Rosa Zworsky, she implemented many of the programs that we see in place today in the Pastoral Institute. The Foundations for Ministry program, the Lay Ministry program, and the Master's program. Around the table of all men, she is the sole woman giving advice on that level for all that the bishop seeks to accomplish in the diocese in terms of all the programming and the new evangelization and all of what the diocese is about.
She is just so hospitable. You're in her presence and you feel somewhat special. She looks at you, she cares about you, but her professionalism above everything else, she is just smart. There is so much more that could be said, but I know that Sister Angela loves a party and wants to get back to the festivities.
She always has time for everyone, no matter how busy she is doing her work, from the most minuscule to the most grande. And I'm so happy they've chosen a woman to celebrate and to thank this evening.
She's had the vision and the foresight to start this program, to initiate it, to build it, and to encourage people to participate. She's an embracing, inclusive leader.
She has the ability to be part of the church here in Brooklyn, Queens, and all of Long Island at a time when it is been very challenging to be a woman religious. And Angela has been able to be part of the dialogue that has made our lives as a religious very worthwhile here in this part of the world.
I have always been about empowering women. But according to canon law, women religious are part of the laity since we are not ordained. We are all co-workers in the vineyard of the Lord. And some have different vocations, but we share that common vocation of baptism. So now you have a layman and a laywoman directing the Pastoral Institute, which was always my goal. I have full confidence that with Jerry and Nelson's leadership, the Institute will continue to thrive and more people will come forward to be commissioned as lay pastoral leaders.
And that is all for tonight. Coming up tomorrow, what can grumpy television characters teach us about the meaning of friendship? We'll find out. Until then, be sure to visit us online at currentsny.net. You can also connect with us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faubliss. We leave you tonight with the sound of music from the Pastoral Institute dinner this past weekend in Douglaston. Thank you for watching and have a good night.